Well, with the exception of God, everything starts somewhere. God is the only thing that was eternally pre-existent. Everything else has a beginning. And we see this in lots of ways in our lives. One of the things that I like to do if I'm getting ready to take a trip somewhere is I like to start off my trip with a full tank of gas. So usually what that looks like for me is the day before, the night before, I go and I fill my car up with gas because I don't want to have to stop 10 minutes into a trip. Especially where we live around here, like depending on which direction you're going, you might be in the middle of nowhere 10 minutes into your trip. But I like to start off my trip with a full tank of gas. I like to start off my trip with a full cup of coffee or a full container of coffee, because that really sets the tone for the rest of the trip. Like all things, again, with the exception of God, there was a beginning to creation. And we see that in Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So there is an assumption when we read this verse, there is an assumption that God just existed. Like in the beginning, God. So we assume that there is a God, and we are filled with all kinds of questions about what kind of God this is. And this tells us in Genesis 1:1 that God is a creator. He created all things. He's responsible for the creation of all things. As we look at everything that we see that we have someone who's behind it, and that person who is behind it is God. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and that was intentional. It was on purpose. It was not like other creation stories, and like we might have some questions, right? Like, how do we know that those creation stories aren't true? Like, how can we know this one is true? And this is more of what we're going to be talking about when we get into Genesis next year in spring 2026. I'm thinking probably February. Like, how do we know that this is the actual creation story? Like, how do we know that we weren't born of God's little g fighting? Like, how do we know that? How do we know that humanity wasn't a byproduct of those little g gods fighting? Like, how do we know that this is the story and those other things are not the story? We could talk about truth. We could talk about that which accords with reality. We could talk about how we don't see these other gods. Like, there's all sorts of things we could talk about in this. But what I want you to know for today, what I want you to understand for today, is that the Bible tells us that God has intentionally, purposefully created us. And because of that, we have an identity and a value and a purpose that comes from him. And that's what we're going to be talking about all week long. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. In the beginning, God made mankind in a way. He made all things in a way that brings him honor and glory. That's why he did it. He did it because he loves. So an overflow of the love between the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, we have creation. We find all things being made by this loving God. I hope that encourages you. I hope that inspires you, because it does me. Love you. We'll talk to you again soon.